Well folks, the Supreme Court has spoken, and it turns out they're not down with TikTok. In a move that surprised absolutely no one who's been following this saga, the highest court in the land upheld the ban on the wildly popular video-sharing app. This means that unless TikTok's Chinese parent company ByteDance decides to sever ties like a bad Tinder date, the app will be effectively unplugged in the US. The clock is ticking, people. ByteDance has until January 19, 2025 to comply, or else TikTok's iconic sound will be replaced by the deafening silence of a nation deprived of viral dance crazes. The court's decision, while unanimous, was not without its nuances, so buckle up as we unpack this digital drama. At the heart of this legal showdown lies a familiar faux national security concerns. The US government has long argued that TikTok, with its Chinese ownership, poses a risk to the data privacy of its American users. Imagine a world where the Chinese government has access to your deepest, darkest TikTok drafts. Yeah, not exactly the kind of content you want going viral in Beijing. The fear is that this data could be used for nefarious purposes like espionage or even good old-fashioned blackmail. And let's be real, folks, with TikTok's addictive algorithm and its uncanny ability to know what you want to watch before you even do, it's no surprise the government's a little concerned about who's got their hands on all that data. Now, before you accuse the Supreme Court of being a bunch of fun-hating killjoys, it's important to understand the legal gymnastics they had to perform to reach their decision. The court applied what's called intermediate scrutiny, which is basically a legal balancing act. They had to weigh the government's interest in protecting national security against TikTok's First Amendment right to, well, exist. In the end, the court sided with national security, concluding that the government's concerns about data privacy were legit and that the ban was a justifiable way to address them. They basically said, look, we get that TikTok is a big deal for free speech and all, but not when it comes at the cost of national security. Now, TikTok didn't just roll over and accept its fate. The company proposed a few alternative solutions, hoping to appease the government's concerns without getting the boot. They suggested things like increased data transparency, stricter oversight of their algorithms, and even allowing American companies to manage the data of US users. But Uncle Sam wasn't buying it. The court ultimately deferred to the government's judgment, concluding that these alternatives weren't enough to mitigate the national security risks. It's like trying to sweeten a bowl of poison with a sprinkle of sugar. Sure, it might look a little better, but it's still gonna kill you. Section 5. Sotomayor and Gorsuch chime in, a concurrence conundrum. Even though the Supreme Court's decision was unanimous, that doesn't mean everyone was on the same page. Justices Sotomayor and Gorsuch, while agreeing with the outcome, felt the need to write their own separate opinions because, well, that's what Supreme Court justices do. Sotomayor, known for her staunch defense of the First Amendment, expressed some reservations about the ban's implications for free speech. She basically said, look, I get why we're doing this, but let's not pretend this isn't a big deal for free expression. Gorsuch, on the other hand, seemed more concerned with the government's rationale for the ban. He questioned whether preventing covert content manipulation was a good enough reason to restrict a platform with millions of users. It's like your dad taking away your phone because he's worried about what your friends are posting online. Sure, he might have good intentions, but it still feels like overkill. Section 6. From Trump's tweets to Biden's briefing. TikTok in the political crossfire. Of course, no discussion of the TikTok saga would be complete without mentioning the political circus that's been swirling around it. This whole thing started back in the Trump era, when the former president threatened to ban the app unless it was sold to an American company. Remember that whole Microsoft buying TikTok debacle? Yeah, good times. Fast forward to today, and the Biden administration is now tasked with cleaning up this mess. And they've been surprisingly tight-lipped about it. The White House has said that they're reviewing the court's decision, but they haven't given any indication of how they plan to proceed. It's like they're trying to defuse a bomb while simultaneously pretending it doesn't exist. Section 7. Collateral damage US companies caught in the TikTok tussle. But wait, there's more. The TikTok ban doesn't just affect the app itself. It also has implications for American companies that do business with it. We're talking about app stores, internet providers, even advertising platforms. Under the law, these companies could face penalties for providing services to TikTok after the January 19th deadline. It's like going after a drug dealer by arresting everyone who's ever bought a dime bag from them. Sure, it sends a message, but it also punishes a lot of innocent bystanders. Section 8. TikTok, time's up, the implementation clock is ticking. So what happens now? Well, as mentioned earlier, ByteDance has until January 19th to divest its US operations or face the consequences. If they don't comply, the ban goes into effect, and TikTok will be effectively blocked in the US. Of course, there's always the possibility of a last-minute deal or some kind of legal challenge, but at this point, it's looking less and less likely. So, if you're a TikTok addict, you might want to start stocking up on those dance tutorials now, because the clock is ticking and the party's about to be over. Section 9. The aftershocks, what TikTok's ban means for the internet and you. The TikTok ban is a big deal, folks. And not just because it deprives us of endless hours of cat videos and synchronized dance routines. This case raises some serious questions about national security, data privacy, and the future of the internet. It sets a precedent for how governments around the world might try to regulate social media platforms, especially those based in countries they deem to be adversaries. It also highlights the growing tension between the free flow of information and the need to protect national security in the digital age. So, the next time you're scrolling through your favorite app, take a moment to think about the forces at play behind the scenes. The internet might seem like a vast and lawless frontier, but as the TikTok case shows, even in the digital Wild West, there's always a sheriff in town.